and embracing sort of the value of our unique perspectives and what that brings to the table?
Well, everybody has a unique perspective, and I think many women, obviously, have unique perspectives, and I think that the ideal court is one that brings together a variety of different perspectives. And there should be people of both genders. There should be ideally representatives of minority groups. In a small court like ours, it's not always possible to have every group, but that should be generally part of the makeup of the judicial system in our country. And I say that for two reasons. First is one of perspective, which you mentioned. And I think that perspectives are important. And the more perspectives you bring to the table, the better. And the more likely that your justice is going to be inclusionary and you're not going to exclude some important consideration. And that you're looking at everyone who appears before you, men, women, children, of whatever background, on a fair basis. So it's very important to the process itself. It's also very important, I believe, for the perception of the process. And I'll tell you a little story to explain what I mean. When I was a trial judge, one afternoon, I was assigned a very routine family case. And the couple were splitting. They had a townhouse, they had some property, and they had some children. And they basically worked out everything but the property. And so the wife appeared with a female lawyer. I was the judge. The court reporter and the court clerk were both women. The husband was representing himself. So we went through the wife's evidence, and that was fine. And at the conclusion of it, I invited the husband to present his evidence and his side of the case. And he seemed to be having trouble getting up from his chair at the counsel table. So I thought, oh, maybe it's because he doesn't have a lawyer. So I said, don't worry that you don't have a lawyer. It's not that complicated case, and we can, if you just tell me your side of the story, we can work this out. And finally he got up, and he looked at me with some umbrage, and he said, "Frankly, Your Honor, I feel a little outnumbered." And I assured him immediately that he needn't worry that everyone else in the courtroom was a woman, that he would get fair justice. And I decided in the end that the property would be divided 50-50, and I thought that was fair anyway. And the case ended. And then that night I went home and I reflected on that. And I thought, how many times through the history of our courts has a woman stood up, if she dared to get that far, all by herself in an all-male courtroom? And that gave me, that man's feeling gave me a new perspective on the problem. It is important that the public know that we have men and women and people of different cultures and so on as part of our judiciary, so that they feel a sense of acceptance, and that they feel that that judiciary, that court system reflects their realities. So for that reason too, I think it's important. Yes?
Well, this question actually follows, and I'm wondering what level of confidence you have with regard to Aboriginal Canadians being able to feel confident that a court that historically has not been receptive to, but now is trying to be more receptive. But
Thank you.
No, it's a big question.
I know it's a good question. I don't mean to treat it as, it's a very important question. How do minority groups, be they Aboriginal, be they others, feel? How do they get a sense of confidence in the courts? It's a complex answer. First of all, I think that they should have a sense that, if possible, there are some of them reflected in the judicial system broadly. Now, there's been there are obvious reasons why sometimes it's not possible to get as many judges of a certain background as you would like. You have to have practiced law at least 10 years to be a judge, and there are other requirements. And in some cultures, people have only recently started, in any number, getting law degrees. And I congratulate this institution for having helped educate many Aboriginal lawyers. But that wasn't happening, you know, 40, 50 years ago, and in any great number. So there can be a bit of a lag on actually getting the people you want in place on courts. The other things we have to do is to make sure that our process, even though we don't have perfect gender parity or perfect minority representation, that the process as a whole is transparent, that the judges give reasons, that judges do not, that bias is not tolerated. You heard that I chair the Canadian Judicial Council. Well, there's a complaints procedure, and if a judge makes a comment that indicates bias, a complaint can be brought. All of these things play an important role in ensuring that people of minority cultures can come to our courts with confidence that they will be heard and that their rights will be vindicated. Yes?
Just wondering if you could speak a little bit about the solutions to the access to justice problems that Canada faces.
Thank you. This is one of my great concerns, and also that of other Chief Justices across the country. As I said before, Canada has a pretty good justice system, and we do have in place many measures that help assure access to justice. Yet we do not provide as good access as we should. There are still women, men, children who have difficulty getting their cases to court, who feel that it'll be too expensive, or who worry that it will take too long, or caught up in it, wait too long. This is something I think we take very, very seriously. But what I've discovered is that there's no quick fix. It's a complex problem, and it varies from place to place, and it requires an array of solutions. And I'm happy to say that a lot has been done in the last months and years to try to bring some of those solutions to bear. We have the pro bono movement has been much strengthened in recent years. Lawyers here in British Columbia have been very active in promoting that. I went to the courthouse a few months ago downtown 700 Smythe Street, and there was a little piece of paper. If you want an hour conference with a lawyer, just take the tab off. The most simple form of communication. But you could obviously call a lawyer and at least talk to that lawyer for an hour. I thought that was good. But there are many other more sophisticated pro bono measures in place. There's the idea that's in place in this province of a hub where people who don't have a legal problem, they think, but don't know where to go, can go and get some advice about where to go. There is legal aid. We all know the difficulties associated with maintaining legal aid. It's a very costly item, but it is there for the serious offenses, and we hope more. Courts more and more are recognizing that some people are going to come to court, particularly in family matters, or minor offenses, on their own without a lawyer. And so they're developing ways to help people and become informed about the process and get themselves through the court process. These are just, and there's also a sharing of information going on through the Judicial Council and other organizations across the country as to what works where. Everybody's got to be involved. Government has to be involved. The legal profession has to be involved, and the judges have to be involved. And they've all got to work together in different ways on improving access to justice. And that's what we're trying to do at the moment in this country, I think, right across the country.